You gotta just chill out, man.
Pittsburgh Steeler fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Schofield coming at you Tuesday night. It's a little bit later than 9 o'clock. Sorry, Big Bro and I were taking care of some business. But where else would you rather be as a Steelers fan as we're waiting for plenty of stuff going on, much like the NFL schedule coming tomorrow. But with me as always, except when he's not, is my big brother, Rich. Rich, have you waited long enough? You're ready to do this show now?
Yes, but I would not be, after the statement you made just a moment ago, I would be remiss. Brian Anthony Davis would be sad if I didn't bring it up that what we were doing, that we're a little late started, is we were taking care of business every day.
yeah, I just had to dealing with some things. Taking care of business. I tell you what, I keep using the word waiting because that's the title of the show. Man, it feels like not the season, but the year of 2025 for the Steelers fans has been all about the wait. It seems like all I've done about the Steelers so far this year is wait.
Yes, let's hurry up and wait.
Hurry up and wait. Okay, it started off with the Steelers playing a game in January, and I was waiting for them to finally win a game or even have a lead after their 3-game losing streak. That didn't happen. Then it was the next week, whether it was in the postseason, and you're waiting for the Steelers to break that postseason losing streak and finally get a win. That didn't happen. So then we start waiting for the changes. Waiting for any kind of coaching change. I know a lot of people wanted it at the very top. I didn't think that was going to be realistic, knowing how the Steelers do stuff. I'm not saying it shouldn't happen. I'm saying it wasn't realistic. There's a difference between those two things. But I thought there'd be more coaching changes, and we were just waiting to hear what they were going to do.
And especially because there were hints that there were going to be changes. The organization hinted there would be changes, but technically there were. They were the same changes we always get.
Yeah.
Not renewing contracts.
Yep. Guy's contract is up. We'll just get going with something else. So we're waiting for that. And then finally, you know what? I got to him like, I need to feel better about something with the Steelers. I can't wait for free agency. Well, first of all, even if I can't wait for free agency, why aren't the Steelers signing one of their quarterbacks? You say they're going to try to keep one of them. Why aren't they signing them? Whether before free agency, anything else. I was hoping that they would. But I'm like, it really doesn't make sense this late in the game that they don't just wait and see. And we waited for that, and that didn't happen. We weren't waiting for the Steelers to make a huge move at wide receiver, but they did. Well, that wasn't what we waited for. That was the nice surprise. And then all of a sudden there was the surprise of, all right, the quarterback options are going. So now we're told about other options. We've been waiting for that. Then it was waiting for the draft. You got to get the right pieces in. How's everything going to fall? Wait for the draft. Now the draft's done. Still waiting on what's going to happen with quarterback. Now we're even waiting on if the Steelers are going to do something else with wide receiver. It's been the theme of the offseason of wait for it. That's right. That's what we have to do is wait for it. So
wait for it.
Yeah. Gabriel Golden had said they should have picked up Fields' 5th-year option. Did he get traded? That was $20-some million for one season. It was like 24 something, and he hadn't played a snap for Pittsburgh. No, that would have been a bad decision.
That would have been a bad decision.
You don't want to do that for someone who's never taken a snap.
Right, now, Gabriel, if you're thinking after we saw some action from him, should we have picked up his
week 4? Yeah.
But the problem is you can't pick up his option then.
No, they had to do it like within a week of when he was traded, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah. It was more than that.
Around the draft is when it is. So yeah, they had a couple weeks, but not where they could see him. But yeah, because honestly, if they weren't willing to pay him what the 5th-year option would have even been, when it ultimately came down to it. So, that wasn't the issue. But bottom line is, people keep. I'm always wearing Steelers gear. And no matter where I go, people ask me, well, what do you think about the Steelers this year? What are they doing at quarterback? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I can't form an opinion. I've been waiting to get more information, and we're still not getting the information. So we're still in a waiting game too, because right now I'm waiting for this time tomorrow night. Hopefully we should be winding down the Steelers preview. That's right. The Steelers preview will be one day early. And we have, I don't know if it's all three guys or not. I haven't confirmed that. I was just told that Pump Your Brakes is going to be on Thursday night. I just wasn't told exactly who all was going to be there. So that's a swap because of the schedule release. So right now we're waiting on the schedule, except for one game. We do know one game. Didn't we kind of already know this? Ever since it was announced that the Steelers were going to be hosting an international game in Ireland, it was reported that it was going to be in week 4. So when we found out it was in week 4, was there any shock to that, Rich?
Nope.
And originally it was reported to be Green Bay. Then there was coming out that it could be Minnesota, and it worked out that way. So, but by the time it all came down to it, Minnesota sounded right. That's what both Bad and I did before they announced it this morning when we had our prediction article at SteelCurveNetwork.com and our prediction podcast on bad language this morning. If you didn't catch that, go back and see that. We figure, hey, Rich, if they can do mock drafts, we can do mock schedules.
There you go.
Every year, just to shoot it out there. And it's crazy that we had like 4 different games. I mean, the week 1, we both had it at the same team, same location, just a different day because he had Monday Night Football and I didn't. But we were even on the same page with some of our stuff. So maybe the NFL will be on the same page with us. But by this time tomorrow night, we will find out. And next week we will do our annual show of we'll break down what would be a good fan experience for people looking for games to go to, whether in Pittsburgh or on the road. So, yep. Oh yeah, and Gabriel's like, oh wow, he just looked up how much Justin Fields' 5th-year option would have been. He's like, okay, that's a different story, seeing that it was that much. So, Rich, are you excited about the NFL schedule release?
Not really.
Yeah.
You know what? No, let me take it back. We already know who the Steelers play.
Yeah.
We already know who they play at home and who they play on the road. We already know who they're playing in Ireland.
Yeah.
The only thing the NFL schedule does for me is that I get to sit down with the person I share season tickets with, and we get to figure out who's going to what when.
Who's going to what?
And we have to wait for that because we look and see what games end up prime time, what time of the year, because we like to kind of divvy them out. Right now, we've each picked one game not knowing the dates.
Mm-hmm.
Because he had a team he really wanted/needed to see, so he let me pick one. So I have the Buffalo game.
Hopefully it's not a Thursday, right? Hey, you live closer than I do. You can make that work.
Yeah. And I forget. I'd have to go back and look at texts to see which one.
And honestly, we saw this from last year. The order kind of matters, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Here's an interesting question about the schedule, getting into it as we talk about what could be. Do you expect the Steelers to have a week 5 bye? Coming back from Ireland?
Probably. They'll probably, because the NFL likes to make the Steelers bye be really early anyway.
Yeah. So my thing is unless the team says, no, we don't want our bye coming back, they just pencil it in. You travel internationally, you get your bye week when you come back. So unless they do with the schedule what Bad thought they might do, have them play on Thursday in week 3, then maybe they don't need the bye when they come back. Play them on Monday. You know what I mean? If it's something like that, that wouldn't be so bad. But I'm anticipating a week 5 bye, which is that's the first game in October. So it's like, I like October games. I'd rather that bye come later. Steelers, it's been a while since they've had a late bye. It really has. But, anything else you want to say about the schedule coming up, or do we want to complain more about being a waiting game?
I I say anything else about the schedule? Anything else about the? No, because we're going to talk enough about it next week once it comes out.
Exactly. It's
So-
well, Afton says this. She's like, "Isn't October the Steelers' strong month?" Yeah, usually,
Tends to be.
except for week 4, which is usually in October, sometimes in September. It's
Wait a minute.
yeah.
Unless it's week 4. But week 4 can be a good week if they lose in week 3.
If they lose in week 3. But I'll say this, because we know the Steelers are playing in week 4 in Ireland against the Vikings. I will say this. If there's anything that could get the Steelers out of that week 4 funk, it would be playing in Ireland. Meaning it's so far outside of the norm that it's its own entity. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when you look at the Steelers now, you would say week 18 or week 17 games, and you look at their record and things like that. But then you look at some of the games, you're like, well, but this one is an outlier because they had already clinched their playoff spot and couldn't change anything, so they rested their players. Or this is an outlier because the Steelers, they beat this team the last week of the season. Well, that team didn't play anybody because they were resting their players. We can we can mention how something is an exception. You're like, oh yeah, the Steelers typically, they have a downer in week 4. I don't know, except when they played in Ireland, man, nothing was going to get them down going over there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping that's how it works. And remember, the last time the Steelers were overseas, they were technically the visiting team. You're like, well, does that matter really? Because you're traveling. I'm assuming because it's a home game, you should get Renegade.
There you go.
You should get Renegade in Dublin because it's a home game.
Could you imagine an Irish Renegade?
Yeah, an Irish Renegade.
Instead of an Irish lullaby, we'll have an Irish Renegade.
Yes. Oh, Lordy. My life from the long arm of the law.
Oh, the law. Oh, that's good. Now you're going to make me. I'm going to come up with like the beginning of that and put it together for next week's show.
I'm sorry. Whenever
probably.
I think Irish, I think of one line from a movie.
Oh, please tell me which one you're doing, because I know which one I'm thinking.
Oh, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
Oh, okay. That's not a bad one. Okay. Oh, okay. Yours is better than mine. Mine was from Goodwill Hunting.
Oh. Kathy agrees. Yes to Irish Renegade.
Yep.
Okay. We'll leave that one. No, that's what I was. I got a candle out there that repels all the bugs except for one. The saber-tooth fly. Sorry, for those of you that might not know, that's a chick flick that both Big Bro and I actually enjoy. That's from Return to Me.
Well, yeah, and the person doing the accent is Carol O'Connor. You gotta love Carol O'Connor.
Yeah, Carol O'Connor in that role. That was great. All right, sorry. Let's get back to let's get back to this. So we talked about Irish Renegade. It's funny because I completely misread something. But yeah, yes to Irish Renegade. So that's going to be real interesting, the kind of stuff that they do there. I thought it was comical because the Steelers are making a big announcement tomorrow. There's a chance it could be Aaron Rodgers. I'm like, it was already scheduled by the NFL that they were announcing the matchups for the international games. Why would you think it would be something different?
I know.
It just didn't make sense. So, but one last thing about the schedule that we're waiting for, as we talk about things we wait for, there will be a lot of fake schedules out there. I already saw one. Someone and it wasn't a Steelers schedule. It was a week 1 schedule. And I knew it was fake. How did I know? I mean, it had all the graphics with CBS and Fox and who was doing it there. It had the NFL. It looked like something you would see from the NFL. How did I know it was fake? it had the Steelers playing at home at 1:00 in week 1.
Let me guess. The Pirates play at home.
Pirates play at 1:30.
So
Can you do it? They share parking. Even if there's only 12 people at the Pirates game, they share parking, so therefore they won't do that schedule.
12 people, that might be the attendance record for the year.
Okay. If this is true, I want to know if this is true. Maybe the live chat can confirm. We're going to bring up Gabriel Golden again. He says, there is an Irish band called Renegade.
Wow. If that's the case, what we need to do is we need to get Renegade in the stadium to perform Renegade.
The Steelers.
That would be awesome.
That's what we need.
Whoa. Mind blown.
I mean, I don't know. That might be that we might mess up the space-time continuum.
Yeah, that would be.
Renegade play Renegade.
Renegade plays Renegade.
Playing the Irish. Yeah.
The only other thing, Renegade play Renegade, and Doc Brown show up.
Great Scott.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And then it would just be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I
think the world would come to an end.
Yep. They'll go back in time as long as it's to a time when they're playing Renegade. All right. So, so there we go. I'm sorry. We're having a little bit too much fun right now. Hey, I've previewed a lot of this show already. Is 2025 just another Steelers waiting game? The question is did you feel like 2024 turned into that a little bit?
Yeah.
There
were things in 2024 that we waited until we kept waiting for something and waited all the way to the start of the season and continued waiting.
Yeah.
Wide
receiver. Yep. So that's what, and also, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, then it was all going to be, Russ having pole position, and we kept having, because of a sled issue, we kept having to wait and see if he was going to, when he was going to finally play, which he did in the preseason. And then what did he do right before the first game? Re-aggravate it, and you have to wait another 6 games. Which, honestly, it was nice to see Justin Fields to get a better idea of things. But it was still waiting to see what the team could be.
But in the end,
still waiting for wide receiver.
In the end, that was nice to see from Justin Fields. But in the end, what that actually did?
What's that?
Priced him out of Pittsburgh.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to deny that. But here's the thing. Here's another thing Steelers fans are waiting for. And are they going to wait for it? And I've broken down the numbers that it's not the instant success that you think it might be. But Steelers fans are still waiting to actually utilize weapons over the middle of the field.
We've been waiting on that one for about 4 or 5 years now.
Well, because honestly, they haven't had a quarterback that would really do it. And honestly, I don't know what to think of Mason Rudolph. If time in Tennessee was good or bad for him, because so much time in Pittsburgh felt like he was being handcuffed until he finally got his shot at the end of 2023. So, but once again, we're still waiting to know what's going to happen there at that position. But I'll tell you this, 2025 season is just another waiting game, because we know as Steelers fans, ultimately, the answer at the quarterback position is not in 2025. That we will be waiting. It doesn't mean that you can't have decent quarterback play, but your options aren't ones, most likely, that are going to be the answer right now, unless through some circumstances of events, something happens where the Steelers' 6th round draft pick gets an opportunity and he just knocks it out of the park.
Goes Ben Roethlisberger with it?
Goes Ben Roethlisberger with it. But because remember, people, Ben Roethlisberger was QB3 going into training camp his rookie year. And it was 2 injuries and he was out there. It could be I'm not putting that kind of pressure on Will Howard. I'm not putting those expectations on him. I'm really not. But I'm just saying.
But I will say this.
Therefore, that's why. Because even if he would somehow, how many times do you bank on a 6th round draft pick being your answer at a position? And even if you do, it wouldn't be for this year. Wait, unless you're talking about a long snapper or a punter or a kicker. Then you might think that they might actually be the answer at that position, but not at something like quarterback.
Correct. Yeah. But there's also nothing that says that player drafted in the 6th round couldn't turn out to be the GOAT.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we've seen it.
That's what's great is that that it's possible, but it's not expected. And that's why I'm saying it's still going to be another waiting game for beyond 2025. Because even if it is, we'll say his name, even if Will Howard becomes more for the Steelers than what is expected of him, the odds of it being in 2025 are pretty low. Are pretty
low. Yeah, I wanted to bring up Vegas. Yeah. TJG says, feel better about Will's future after watching him on Gruden's show. I hadn't watched Gruden's shows. I actually went back and watched them after the draft. After the draft, went back and watched them.
I don't know how long it was. I've seen parts.
It was 46 minutes total.
Okay, I've seen several different 5 to 8 minute parts, so I haven't seen all of it. I've never seen the whole where I could see the whole thing.
I watched it start to finish. Actually, I watched most of them start to finish since.
Really?
Will Howard's was good. Will Howard's was actually really good. And if John Gruden were a coach in the NFL currently, Will Howard would have been the quarterback he went after in this draft.
Yeah. Sorry, I got a tickle in my throat there. So thanks for holding it down for me as I passed out off camera.
The best thing going for the Steelers with Will Howard, and Will Howard may actually even recognize this now, is that, first of all, he just wanted to get drafted and get in the league. Because I also went back and watched some of the footage of him when he was drafted and the conversations on the phone and this and that. Mm-hmm. That guy, in the end, was just excited. And he talked about, and he actually even mentioned on Gruden's show, that what team he went to him was more important
than where he was drafted. Yeah.
Than his draft position.
Yeah.
And he was excited. I'm guessing he probably had 8 or 10 teams that he felt would be a good fit for him. And I honestly believe that he felt the Steelers was one of those.
Did you see the clip of him being like, come on, Pittsburgh. Come on, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I love the fact that now he gets to come in. He is not expected to win the starting position. That expectation is not put on him by the coaching staff. That expectation is not put on to him by the fan base. That expectation is not put on him by the front office, not put on to him by ownership, not put on to him by the NFL, needing him to sell jerseys.
Yeah.
So all he needs to worry about is go out there and be the best Will Howard he can be. And if by chance him doing that leads to greater things down the road for him, how lucky were we? How lucky were we? If they don't work out, the fan base can be like, okay, it's okay it didn't work out, because it wasn't like we spent a 1st or 2nd round draft pick on him. We drafted him in the 6th round. We took a flyer. When you take a flyer that late in the draft, when it works out, great. When it doesn't, you're really not out much.
You're exactly right. Sorry that I hope my voice is still holding up.
Look, certain things about him. Believe it or not, going into the draft, last minute I got to looking over quarterback stuff, and he was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
You want to know why? You want to know why?
Why?
6'4", 237.
Yeah, the the measurables. He's like Josh Allen, like Ben Roethlisberger, things of that. My thing was, before the draft, if you would have said, if you're taking one quarterback in this draft, realistically, I'm like, well, you're not going to get Cam Ward. You're not.
Correct.
The Steelers aren't going to. You would have had to go all the way up to number 1. That wasn't realistic to trade up that far. Was he definitely worth selling out everything to go get him? That I wasn't sure. If I had the number 1 pick, heck yeah, I'm taking him. But if you had to move all the way 20 spots up in the first round in order to do that, I don't know that I would be willing to sacrifice that much because it would take so much capital this year and next year. And who's to say next year that there wouldn't be someone that might be better that's available at 6? You know what I'm saying? I'm not definite, but it's the possibility. So other than that, you say name me one quarterback you want. My answer was always Will Howard.
Yeah,
I didn't like Jackson Dart. I felt like he was getting pushed up just because no one else was there. Wasn't big on Tyler Shuck. And honestly, I was just listening to guys like Jeremy Betts, like Roy Countryman. And the more I heard them, then I start looking at things myself. And I'm like, part of the reason I liked Will Howard is because I also like the possibility of where the Steelers could get him.
Yes.
Remember, I wanted him in our draft.
Yes.
In round 4.
In round 4. Yes.
And
we were looking at him 4th round. Yeah.
But I'm like, if they could get him in round 4, and when I saw Ohio State in round 4 that the Steelers were drafting, I was like, oh. But at the same time, I didn't know that they needed to take Howard in round 4 because of all the quarterbacks that still hadn't gone.
Correct.
You know?
Yep.
So
now, some other stuff that I will say, since we brought him up, we're talking about it. I want to talk a little more about Will Howard. So, in watching some of the stuff on that Gruden show, and then, of course, after that, I got to going and looking at a little more tape on him. As I tend to do after the draft, is I don't look at a lot of tape before. I wait and look specifically at the Steeler guys afterwards. So going back and looking at some of the stuff on Will Howard, and I really started to look hard because Gruden mentioned in the show that Will Howard was at Ohio State was already running a pro-style offense. Mm-hmm. Will Howard at Ohio State was already in an offense where he used all of the field.
Mm-hmm.
Will Howard was already in an offense where they ran option routes.
Mm-hmm.
Will Howard was already in an offense where he was allowed to read the defense and have a specific play he got audible to.
Yeah, he can check out of it.
So to me, there was not only the physical stuff you could see, but you knew that because of everything that's being thrown his way and the way he was handling it, that he is a lot more than some prepared upstairs to deal with it.
Yeah.
I forget which guy it was that, Gruden's talking to, and he's like, so, hey, you do this. What are you doing? He's like, whatever the coach says.
Yeah.
I'm running the play coach says.
I wonder if that one was Jackson Dart.
Might have been.
Well, because what I remember from what I saw of Jackson Dart was like Gruden's like, all right, let me hear your cadence, and he just goes, claps. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, that's all I've ever done. Well, sometimes it's, I'm like, that just goes to show. I'm like, what are they? It's funny. I gotta, because Big Pun put out there that Dan Orlovsky graded Dart as a top 10 prospect. I'm like, well, he wasn't.
Dan Orlovsky probably graded himself as a top 10 prospect coming out. Yeah. So I was looking
before, after he stepped out of the
end zone.
Yeah. But my thing with Dart, I just could not get over because I've watched so little college football that one time I turned on a game because it looked like it was coming down to the wire. And I like sometimes I'll check on my phone if there's nothing going on a Saturday, especially a Saturday night. I'm just hanging out on the couch and I'm like, oh, here's a game of a ranked team and an unranked team, and it's coming down to the wire. And I turned it on, and it was Ole Miss in Florida. And like every time Ole Miss, they were losing, they get the ball back, he'd throw an interception. They do something, they get the ball back, he'd throw an interception. He had all these and all he did was throw picks. And I'm like, he wasn't throwing anything close to his guys either. It was crazy.
Going back to Big Pun again, because then he was like, hey, Will Howard was in an offense with vastly superior offensive weapons than the defenses he was playing against. While he was at Ohio State, I will say that, Big Pun. Yeah. He was. But again, he always was making the right reads, making the correct throws.
Yeah.
The majority, not all the time, but the majority of the time. Now, did he make some mistakes? He made some mistakes, and he was quick to own up to them. But actually what impressed me as much with looking at that stuff from Gruden was also going back to some of the K-State tape. And he didn't have the type of weapons he had at Ohio State last year.
Yeah.
But his play wasn't that different.
if you listen to Jeff Hartman's Let's Ride for Monday, where his Monday morning conversation, he had on a podcaster from FFSN that covers Ohio State. And he's like, and Jeff brought it up a couple of times, and he was right. He's like, I could have had Jeremy Betts, could have had Big G, could have had, all these guys that are Ohio State guys, but they're also all Steelers fans. So he wanted to have a guy that wasn't one. He was actually a Browns fan. So who is like upset that the heart and soul of that team that won the national championship, the two players, one offense, one defense, both went to the Steelers.
Yeah.
So he,
right.
But he was talking about that.
Dave.
But one other thing I know we got to take a break. We got to stop talking about quarterback. But one thing I wanted to bring this up. One last thing, because Brian Miswa said, don't count out Will Howard. I am not, but I'm telling you this. If you want the best that you could get out of Will Howard, it would be better for Steelers fans to not see him in the regular season.
Yep. This year.
I think it would be better. I think it would be better for Will Howard.
Yes.
That's
all right. I got one more I do because Big Pun's on fire. Hey, I guess my question for the two of you is, why is Gruden's opinion deemed gospel? I don't want to say that it's totally gospel, but actually, Big Pun, the thing that I like that Gruden does is similar to why over on Steel Curtain Network, my favorite person's stuff to read and look at is film breakdown from Coach KT Smith.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's actually why I like what Gruden does is you get a lot of that film breakdown in these quarterback things with Gruden, and he's looking at, and he's not just pointing out the good. He's pointing out the good. He's pointing out the bad. He's pointing, hey, you did this here. What should have you done? And really breaking down and dissecting things. Now, I don't know that I call Gruden gospel, but I will say I do, when it comes to the play at the quarterback position, very much value what he has to say.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing when it comes to Gruden stuff. Now, like I said, I haven't watched a full one of these in completion, and maybe it's not what I've gotten out of it. Is that Gruden's not even doing this to tell you his opinion about these guys. It's more about him asking the right questions and getting the right information for you to form the opinion.
Yep.
He's not. It's not just listening to Gruden tell you why this player's great or why he's bad. He's basically letting the player show, their various things. Anyway, we've got to take a break. We're running over a little bit here in the first half, but that's all right. We're going to get back. We focused a lot on quarterback and the waiting game that there is, and that's kind of a topic that we went into. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll get our 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk. We'll get our big question. So stick around. We'll be right back after this.
Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax. Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax.
Yeah, we got to relax and don't worry, even though it's still just a waiting game. I thought it's interesting because, once again, this is a good thing. Big Pun says, I'd love to go back and watch Gruden's past QB evaluations and see how they turned out.
I do. I do. Do they all turn out? No. Sometimes guys do get a little overhyped, or he gets a little overexcited about some guys. You tend to be able to tell from Gruden, even when he's now you got to remember this is a show, so he's trying to in some ways hype every guy.
Yeah.
But if you really, really are into watching these things, you can figure out which guys he's higher on than others.
Yeah.
And some of the guys through the years that he's not been as high on, you can tell, and they've been mediocre. The first one that that comes to mind when I think of that is Andy Dalton.
Mm-hmm.
Just I could tell when he did the one with Andy Dalton that he thought Andy Dalton was okay, but would never be anything special.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? That's exactly what Andy Dalton was.
Yeah.
He was okay.
Is he still in the league?
I don't know. He might still be, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm trying to remember who was the quarterback, when was that? 5 to 8 years ago that Mel Kiper kept going on and on about and said if he's not a great NFL quarterback, then he needs to not do this job anymore.
Yeah.
Who was it? He was a total. He ended up being just.
I was actually watching that.
I
know I was watching that recently and was just like, I'll quit this job, and it's like
put it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone will remember. As soon as I see the name, I'm going to be like, yeah, that's who it was. I don't think it was Trent Dilfer. Jimmy Clausen, that's who it was.
There you go.
Jimmy
Thank
Clausen.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kyle Smith.
That's who it was. Yes. So that's what happens. You know what? And
although he was pretty high on Trent Dilfer as well.
Yeah.
Actually, no. Wait a minute. Yeah. Kuiper was high on Dilfer as well.
That's the old school one. That's when the Colts didn't take him.
Yeah.
And there was the whole back and forth. So that's true too. That wasn't the one I was talking, because Trent Dilfer, what was that? That was like 30 years ago.
It was back a ways.
Yeah.
But it was Clausen was the one where he staked his job. Was the one where he put his job on the line and then said he quit his job, and he didn't come anywhere close. And Mel Kiper didn't quit his job.
It's interesting because the analysts who do that, we want to point out where they're wrong, but teams are wrong all the time. Yeah. That's the thing. You hope, you want to get out. You want everyone. You want at least your first rounder to be a Hall of Famer. And I think the class with the most Hall of Fame players ever, the draft, I think is like 8 or 9, something like that. It's not double digits, so that means not even half the teams are getting someone. I mean, look at how many of them don't ever make All-Pro.
The Steelers, 1974.
I know. Well, that's how many. But here's the thing to remember about 1974. They had 4 draft picks and an undrafted free agent that were made the Hall of Fame from that class. There's only one other player from that draft class that made the Hall of Fame. Meaning not Steelers class, meaning in the 70
correct.
In the 74 draft. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I know, but when you're talking about that, man, did the Steelers ever hit that draft out of the park? But
yeah. Yep. Let's get back to you know what? And you know what? It's been a waiting game since then, because we've never had a draft, but no one's ever had a draft.
No one's ever had a draft like that. Ever. And honestly,
when people ask me, people get excited about the Steelers draft, like Omar Khan's, first couple drafts, people were like, they will say, "Is this like 74?" I'm like, no. And one thing, here's the thing that's crazy. Has Omar Khan had phenomenal drafts? Can't say that yet. It's too early to tell. But in the moment,
they've had great starts.
They've drafted players that other people were high on, and the Steelers took them. That doesn't mean that they're the best players. How many times have the Steelers taken somebody that you might not have been as high on, and they ended up being good? I can't remember back to that draft. How high was everybody on Marquise Pouncey? How high was it on David DeCastro, who fell to the Steelers?
The Pouncey one was I remember that one with Pouncey. Okay. The fan base on that one was very split. Half of the fan base said, "This is our next Hall of Fame center."
Mm-hmm.
And the other half of the fan base said, "We need skill positions."
Yeah. Yeah.
So there were some folks that were not as big on Marquise Pouncey, but there were plenty who were big on him. But
it just goes to show you that you never really know how players are really going to turn out.
Well, you want to, we've talked in the past that, you really like your first 3, first, second, third rounders. You really expect to make the team and have an impact.
Yeah.
Not just make the team, but make the team and have an impact.
Right? Yeah. And I'll say this.
You know,
if the Steelers ever have this draft that you fall in love with, and before they ever even step out on the field, you want to mention the year 1974, I will just say you need to get
No.
that. I want to slap those numbers out of your mouth. How dare you bring up anything to compare to 1974 until those guys are 10 years into their NFL careers?
you know,
That's what
all
I'm
you have
gonna
to
say.
all you have to do with some of those things is then just remind yourself of names like, and I'll go to the I'll do, you know, some recent and some further back. You know, you can think Chase Claypool.
Yeah.
You can think, ready, Limas Swede.
Yeah.
You could, you know, honestly, you really want to get to it, which what happened here was just unfortunate, but you can go all the way back to, you know, Senior Sack in '83
Yeah.
when we passed on Marino.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you know, now Gabe Rivera though I think had the potential to be that next anchor defensive lineman guy. It was just sad what happened.
Yeah.
That you saw the flashes in the little bit you got to see why the Steelers would do it, and the thing there was just then unfortunate, and you never got to know.
Yeah.
But you know, so you got to be careful. The biggest thing I think right now, the biggest thing I think we have going for Omar Khan's draft classes so far is that so many of them are still in Steeler uniforms.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So there's still
And that's actually the piece that it's been a long time since we've seen where that many draft picks not just make the team but make the team and stick.
Well, I mean, here's something you got to remember. The Steelers' 1974 draft, 4 drafted players that made the Hall of Fame, 1 undrafted free agent. The Steelers' 75 draft, out of all 17, no, more, it might, I don't know how many players they had. It was a lot. It was 17 rounds.
17
But
rounds. But
it was all those players. You ready? 1 total Pro Bowl. And that was their first round pick, and it wasn't even with the Steelers. That was Dave Brown. That was like Seattle. Okay.
I actually had fun because some of the stuff when we've talked about in that 74 squad, I've gone back and I've looked at the drafts. I've looked at things like that. You know, the Steelers have had drafts back when you were, again, 13 rounds, 17 rounds, and things like that. Mm-hmm. And they'd have some years where by year 2, they'd only have 1 or 2 guys left from that.
So in other words, it's like a 2022 draft. Okay. Yeah. Here's what's crazy. Okay. You ready? That 75 draft that was that was just, like you would argue, oh, well, if you look at just the numbers, you had a player in the 3rd round, a tight end, Walter White, that was you know, had over 2,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, all with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Nothing with the Steelers.
Right.
You know, honestly, that you went from Lynn Swann, Jack Lambert, John Stallworth, Mike Webster in that draft, and Donnie Shell was an undrafted free agent. You know who was probably the best player in a Steelers uniform in the 1975 draft? 14th round pick running back Mike Collier, who just passed away this past year.
Mm-hmm.
As a Steeler. You know,
it
just goes to show how that goes. How did we get off talking so much about draft?
I don't know, because we're waiting.
No, because we're waiting. This is what we do as Steelers fans. When we're waiting for the next thing,
we got to find something to talk about.
Talk about that. One of the things, how the things from the past, how we can compare them to now, and all kinds of good stuff.
So while we're on that, let me talk about this. How about let's think just for a moment about then some of those guys from the Steelers that they got. I'm not even talking about what round, but just guys that you feel then it was like, wow, I didn't know what to think about this guy. Wow, this was unexpected.
Yeah.
What kind of guys come to your mind when you think about that?
When they drafted someone that like lower and or something?
Doesn't even have to be lower. It can just be like that you then look back and just even be like, wow, that guy's career, although it wasn't Hall of Fame worthy, I can now understand more why they liked this guy, what he did, and how he fit as a Steeler.
Yeah.
The first part I think of with that last way I described it is Aaron Smith.
Oh yeah. I mean, Aaron Smith. People always want to say Brett. Bring up Brett Kiesel.
Brett Kiesel,
You know.
just and you look and you come back. I'm sitting here looking some of these folks looking back, go way back because you remember, Walter Abercrombie. Like, believe it or not, that guy was a solid Steeler.
How about the 1987 draft? You had Rod Woodson. Yeah, you had Hardy Nickerson, who ended up, being more in Tampa Bay. But you also had Greg Lloyd in round 6 and Merrill Hodge in round 10.
Yeah, I mean you think about that. Greg Lloyd in round 6 is a steal for what that guy turned into.
People were like, "Oh, round 10, that was pick 261, so that would have been just out of what they have, like 259 this past year."
Yeah,
so of where so sometimes you get some of those, some of those drafts, and then you get ones that just don't add up as much. So that's just it. I mean, you look back on it. Can you believe that Cornell Lake wasn't a first round pick? He was a second round pick. Sometimes you just get you get guys further down that you're like, oh wow, believe it or not, here's another guy. I was looking at like the 90 draft where they had Eric Green and Neil O'Donnell, Barry Foster. But then you get a guy in round 11 in Justin Strelzik.
Yeah. Oh man, he was just.
I mean, when he was playing,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that was very tragic what happened to him. But he was a good lineman for the Steelers. Taken at pick 293. So that's what we're waiting for. That's another thing we're waiting for.
right.
We're waiting for that lower round pick that just hits.
And okay, you know what I'm waiting for? I'm waiting for Big Pun to stop knocking it out of the park every time he kind of asks a question out here because he's asking some great ones tonight. If you could take Derek Harmon to have Aaron Smith's career, but no better, would you take it right now?
Oh my!
Okay, I'd put it to you this way, Big Pun. Him being a first round draft pick, I'd hope for a little more. But if I got Aaron Smith's career out of it, I'd still be happy.
Yeah.
I'd still be happy.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a little more flash, a little more fanfare to it. But if it didn't, I'm still good.
Yeah.
I'm still good with that.
If that was it, then yeah. Honestly.
There you go. John Walter, I like John Walter's answer to this. If it comes with a ring, yes, because Aaron Smith has one of those. Yeah.
So here's my question. Do you remember what round pick he was? No, he has 2 of those, just so you know. He did. He was on both teams. Yeah.
3. Wasn't he a round 3 pick?
Good guess. He's actually a round 4 pick.
Okay.
Yeah. And the Steelers had 3 round 3 picks that year. Remember, Joey Porter was one of their 3.
Yep.
Joey Porter and Amos Zaraway were 2 of them. I've got it here in front of me. So, yeah, that's interesting. See, because that's the thing. Aaron Smith just really.
Now let me throw this out there. Okay. Now imagine that. It's okay. So if he was a 4th round pick, what if you got that kind of career out of Jack Sawyer?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly. So, and here's another one. Okay. What if Derek Harmon was just what people have been saying? Oh, wow. That would be great if he could just be Stephon Tuitt.
Oh, I'd take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, you say it, but here's the thing you got to remember about Stephon Tuitt. Now, granted, we didn't get to see it all, honestly.
Correct.
But at least Aaron Smith was a Pro Bowler.
I think had Tuitt stayed in the league too, it would have been as well.
I think it's hard to say because it's another one of those deals of, are you being overshadowed by somebody else in the same position group on your own team?
His trajectory was there.
Yeah. So
His trajectory
yeah.
was there. That honestly, I think had he played the first year he sat out, he would have been a Pro Bowler that year based on his numbers from the year before. We often talk about how typically it takes another year. Sometimes somebody has a really good year, but if their name wasn't really out there, they don't make the Pro Bowl till the next year. I think that would have been to it.
Yeah, because in 2020 he had double-digit sacks. That was all. So, yeah, it's funny because we wanted to talk about we got to do our 5 minutes of Steelers talk. This is what we do with Steelers fans. Why we wait? What do? We get off and talk about other Steelers things. So I think we just kind of let the live chat lead us off in a little bit different direction there. But we're running over. But that's all right.
Tonight's show brought to you by Big Pun.
By Big Pun. Yeah. All right. So here's it's my week to do the big question. Not the big question. Sorry,
Big
we'll
question.
get into
5 minutes.
5 minutes of non-Steelers talk. Okay. Here we go. Yesterday, my kids were there at a field trip. They were at a like a summer camp park, a rec place. You know, they have like zip lines, like this boat that crashes down into a creek, and they had horseback riding and a bunch of stuff like that. And it was a decent, nice day, warm outside. Enough that the kids come home, they're hot, they're tired, they're kind of done. I asked my wife what she wants for dinner, and she's like, well, I was thinking over Mother's Day weekend that something I really wanted, and I didn't want to say it. I'll say it now. I'm like, okay. She says pancakes. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. It is hot outside. We were all tired. It's not a pancake day. But you know what I had made for dinner tonight? Pancakes. It was rainy and just soaking rain like crazy, so much so that, a little bit west between you and I, there are some serious
major flash flooding up here. Actually,
major
might have
flooding.
to
But
shout out to one of my really good friends' daughter, Sam, Samantha Tichnell, and her business. She has a bakery, got flooded. So I've already thrown out there to her, if you need help, just ask. We got hands to help. So she had. There were. Put it this way: if you're all out there, watch the Weather Channel right now. All the flooding stuff from Western Maryland they're showing. Actually, there's pictures of her shop that they've been showing on the Weather Channel.
Yeah.
As well as have fun watching the school rescue where they had to bring boats in to get the kids out of elementary school. You know right where that school is. They're coming through Westernport, and which is just actually down the road from her shop. Everybody thinks, I'll geek out with you about that weather thing afterwards.
Yeah.
I won't put it out here.
So, all right. So, get back to my question. It was about pancakes. But anyway,
what do you like on your?
No. It's this weather-related food. That it's just based on the weather that you want to have food with certain weather. It's this time of year, this kind of weather, you want this or not.
Yep.
Anything in particular you want to stick out there? Put this in the live chat as well if any of you are there.
November, December cold, whether that be cold and snow or cold, or even sometimes better, cold rain. You know how we get with up here, especially those high of 38 and rain all day kind of days. I love homemade turkey noodle soup with homemade noodles and homemade turkey
noodle soup.
On those cold times, because honestly, I like to make it because when I make it, not everybody in my house even likes to eat it, so I have it lots, and then I get because you know how it gets up here in November where it'll be that rain like that for like 3 or 4 days straight. I love that. Then have it for dinner, and then I take it in my lunch to work the next 4 days on those cold, rainy days, and it just helps. Helps keep me in a good mood.
It's funny because when we were kids, it would be the cold weather. Sometimes we would have soup and scones.
Yep,
soup and scones. It was just fried bread. That's just
fried dough.
Fried dough. That's all it was.
Yep.
Fried dough. So there's that. People in the live chat are putting, hot dogs in summer. I'm like, yeah, to me, I'm more of a burger than hot dogs myself. Honestly, I'll say a good grilled sausage. It's
You
pretty
say
good.
sausage. In
Yeah.
the fall, when it starts to get cool up here, what I like to grill are kielbasi.
Yeah. Yep. Something like that. Here's what's interesting. I'm a coffee drinker. I do really like coffee, but when I go outside when it's snowy, like if I'm shoveling the driveway or snow blowing the driveway or having to play with the kids or whatever, usually we go outside, the kids play, and I work, is how it usually goes. When you come back in, I pass on the coffee, and I go right to the hot chocolate. That's because of the weather. It's hot chocolate. When you hit the fall, it's pumpkin donuts from Dunkin' Donuts. A lot of people.
Not just Dunkin' Donuts. I look for them all over the place. Some of my favorite ones are the little mini ones that you get from like Little Debbie's or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
The mini pumpkin donuts, or Walmart sometimes does them.
Oh,
And-
you know what?
and-
The bag of Krispy Kreme cruller donuts that are pumpkin, those are pretty good too. But honestly, my favorite are the Dunkin' Donuts pumpkins. But sometimes, it's just like, if it's a really hot day, what you might feel like eating versus if it's really a cold day. And like pancakes, it's either got to be a snowy or a rainy day that's when it's there. There you go. Big Pun is saying corn on the cob in the summertime. That's when you can get it. When you can get it fresh.
Well, hey, but August hits, and in my brain, it's kicked in. For up here, you can maybe get corn on the cob sometimes late July, but the really good
for me,
stuff
it's
really
July,
comes in about
where I live.
kicks in right near the first part of August, and you got about a 4 to 5 week window.
Yeah.
Now it might carry on past them, but it's never as good. So for me up here, for me, it's not just when it's available; it's when it's available and good. So
Yeah. So it's funny because in order to have enough to talk about, I asked my wife if she, a couple things, and she said them. And now, of course, I forget what it was that some of the stuff that she said. But yeah, that's just kind of certain times of the year, like my wife's like, oh, you make cream of crab soup? Not in the summertime, man. That's what I have in the wintertime. Here's another one. Sometimes I'll do this just for lunch, and it's generally only between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Ready? Cheese and crackers is a meal.
yep, I did say
with
because we came up doing that at home sometimes. So it was
and honestly, it's my wife that likes everything. Hers is the club crackers with Colby Jack cheese. Mine is Triscuits with pepper jack melted.
mine is chicken and a biscuit with port wine and deer bologna.
And dear bologna. There you go. There you go. There you go. That's some good stuff. Okay, yeah. Mr. Woodside said cheese and crackers very underrated. Absolutely, absolutely.
You know what? I'm going to bring up one to you and see what you remember of this one in the summertime. That would be, I'll call it the snack. Sometimes the snack food at our house, and I think we kind of had our dad to thank for this because remember, Mom would always make it for him, but I always loved it, and that was crackers with cream cheese and chives. When we cut the fresh chives out back of the house and put it in some cream cheese and put cream cheese and chives.
Put them on crackers.
And put them on Ritz crackers, and I still love that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because they're talking about sophisticated here and stuff like that. So there we go. That was fun. I just thought it's just because sometimes I know I've talked about food in the past, but I thought this was interesting, the tie between food and weather. Like honestly, there was another thing that I saw today. If it wasn't a rainy day, I'd have gone back and bought it. But if it would have been a hot day, I would have gone back into the store and bought it. But I was walking out the store today, and what did I see for the first time? Watermelon. I'm like, good hot day, work outside, mowing grass, whatever. Come in, one little snack. Where I already have cut up cold watermelon. There you go.
Watermelon.
All right.
Hold on. I'm looking. Where is it? Because you've said watermelon, and I got to find it and play it. So
Can't do it.
Come on.
Can't do it.
You know what?
I can't.
Oh, can't do it. Yeah, because you're
I'm allergic to it.
yeah.
So-
But just Just like cranberries with me, it just makes my
I
throat
know.
so itchy I can't do it. So,
Yep.
all right. So that's we are really running over, but we're going to do our
Real
big
quick,
question.
the big question.
And-
I think
and
this
it's
can be a pretty quick one.
We're not doing the waiting about what we're waiting. This is what I asked for. Right now, what's the first thing we're waiting for? The biggest thing. I know some people might say, "Oh, it's quarterback." No, the most pressing thing is we're waiting for the schedule tomorrow night, which make sure you're back on here for the Steelers preview on a different night, as we will break down the schedule by going through game by game, and Brian, Jeff, and I giving our predictions. Jeff did one year predict all wins because he says he always does that, and I had to go back and show him the tape that no, he didn't. Jeff picks the Steelers to win every week, but when he does it for the season, he Kathy says she's eating cheese and crackers as soon as the show's over. Gotta love it.
Everybody's talking about cheese and crackers. On
Yeah,
here
cheese.
now. It's kind of
We
funny.
could have just done cheese and crackers.
I know,
For
we
5
should.
minutes. We could have.
Cheese
That'd
and
be good.
crackers.
Yeah, cheese and crackers are great. So the question is, because I said, well, we'll be there tomorrow night predicting the schedule as soon as we know the order. What we don't know the matchup. I mean, we know who the Steelers are playing at home. We know who they're playing away. My question to you, Rich, and then of course it'll be the big question of the live chat. But wait for me to post it in there before you do it. Which matchup are you looking forward to? Which opponent, whether home, if it's a division one, you got to say home or on the road. Are you looking forward to finding out when the Steelers play them this year?
For me, that's an easy question. Because right now, so our friend Chuck and I that share season tickets, we typically wait till the schedule comes out to do a lot on picking who's going to what games. But this year he had a particular team. I don't know if I can't remember if it's somebody in his family or him or needed to. He was like, I need these tickets. So if you have a particular team you want to call now. So I talked with Kyle because I talked with who he may want to go see. So the one that I'm interested to see the most when they play is when they play the Buffalo Bills.
Now, you've already seen the Buffalo Bills because that was
Correct.
the infamous Dad and I spooning game where we drove home in a snowstorm after the stupid Wildcat after the turnover. Oh, don't get me started on that. I don't know if I can go to the Bills game. Me, I'm going to tell you this. Mine that I'm looking forward to the most is one because of what I projected. I want to know when this is because it could change everything. I want to know when they are playing at Detroit because I want to know if it's going to mess up my Thanksgiving or not. I love football on Thanksgiving, but I don't want to work with the Steelers. So I want to know when that game is to know if it's going to be on Thanksgiving or not.
I know, but Dave, the only bright side though is typically when does Detroit typically play time-wise? Because don't they even play at the same time? Oh, they always do the early one.
They're always the 12:30. Dallas is always the 4:30. I remember because when I would do 2 Thanksgivings, like I used to do back when my father-in-law was alive, I would be at my mother and father-in-law's house for the evening meal, and it was always the Cowboys.
Gotcha.
It was always when I was, since you've been back in the area, because you weren't before, doing Thanksgiving with you, our parents, whoever was around in our family before, it was always the Detroit game that was the first.
Well, if the Steelers are playing in Detroit on Thanksgiving Day, then I just want you to know that Thanksgiving dinner will be at 9:30 a.m.
So
we can say this though. On the bright side, okay? No matter what happens on Thanksgiving, the Steelers are not playing on Christmas this year.
You think so? They didn't announce the Christmas ones yet, did they?
I think they did, Dave.
I know they announced Christmas night.
Did they get them?
I don't know.
I was thinking I saw at least two.
You might be right. I did for this, but here we go. Let's start bringing these up. Tyler W says, "I want to see if they play the Lions on Thanksgiving. They could still play on Thanksgiving, either at home or on the road in the primetime game. I mean, it's not that I'm wanting them to play the Lions on Thanksgiving. I kind of don't because of that. But yeah, Afton says, well, when the game against Miami will be." It's funny because Tyler said that Tyler typed it in and was ready to go before I answered. So yes, I did know what you're going to say. TD Tom Dessenberger says Detroit game. John S. says it's not a particular matchup. He wants to see the cold weather games, like the games in Pittsburgh at the end of the season. I'm sure he's talking about, or if they're playing in outdoor stadiums and other cold venues. Like, are they going to play in when do the Steelers play in Chicago this year? When do they play in New England this year? Is it going to be cold weather or not? Okay. Still lots of cheese and cracker discussion going on. And John Walter says all the AFC North games, but also the Lions because his wife's a fan. And Kathy, she also says Buffalo. So this was a. I mean, we got a lot of people in the that are watching live. We might have a couple people. I know my daughter at work today at Chick-fil-A. She handed out information for someone who then went on and liked our channel. That for all I know, they might be watching right now. That I thought was pretty interesting because they came into her place of work dressed in Steelers gear like I would have been. So she did that. Okay, Tyler brought up another good one. Tyler says Green Bay when they host the Packers. I thought for sure people would list that one because there's a good chance it could be prime time. It's going to be in Pittsburgh. That's a big time. That's a big time game. Usually between the two franchises, and that there could even be a little bit more with it this year, depending on how things work out. With that, Rich, we're going to call it a show. If anyone else throws in another team in there, I'll make sure I bring it up. As I said, tomorrow night will be the preview. So make sure you're tuning in. Make sure you're checking out all of our audio-only podcasts. If you're just here on YouTube, Facebook, X, you're missing a lot. You're missing all Jeff Hartman's Let's Ride. You're missing Bad Language. Here we go, the Steelers Show. You're missing The Fix. You're missing my show with Greg, Pittsburgh Standard Time. You're missing Steel City Insider with Jim Wexel and Jeremy Ritz. You're missing Marky D. I listened to Marky D's show today. Good day, Steelers Nation. And why am I trying to remember?
Good day, Marky D.
And then you're also missing Black and Gold Blueprint with Roy Countryman and Rob. Those are all audio. You're missing my on the weekends. You're missing my unpopular opinion. You're missing Daniel J. State of the Steelers and Phillips. Was it Black and Bold? There we go. I thought I always missed that. So those are all those shows that we have going on. That if you're just with us here on this side, just go anywhere you can find podcasts, type in Steelers, you're going to find us, or you can type in Steel Curtain Network. Also, you can go to steelcurtainnetwork.com. But below the main articles at the top, we have the player right there. It has all, I mean, my goodness, you can scroll back, I think, through 5,000 shows if you went to it. Was what the number it has on there, and it gets it to you in order, so you can always check there to say, hey, did I miss something? Well, you just scroll right down there, whether you listen to it there on your computer or on your phone. That's available there as well. And I already mentioned the website. Make sure you're checking out lots of good stuff there. Did I miss any more stuff in here? So all right, here we go. Rich,
other than the fact that Afton says Marky D is fun.
Marky D is okay. Rich, what do you have to say? We were asked, what time is the preview? Like tomorrow night. Well, first of all, they've got to announce the schedule officially. That the Steelers have already announced they will have it out on their social media platforms at 8:00. We will probably go shortly after 8. We'll have to make sure the article's done. We're ready to go. I don't think we're going to stick around and go. My goodness, that's past Jeff Hartman's bedtime. So we've got to get going right away.
And most importantly,
yeah,
it's past Jeff Hartman's bedtime, and we need his golf game to be taught.
We need his golf game to be on point for Thursday morning for a golf tournament we're playing. That's right, Big Bro Scho, hashtag pay Kyle, myself, and Jeff. We're going to go out there and see if we can hold it down in a golf tournament.
For the second time. This will be the second time we've played in a golf tournament.
But it's for tournament this time. Last time was in your area. This one's in mine.
Yep.
So this should be a whole lot of fun. So we'll go as soon as we can after 8:00. Kind of like when you get a post-game show.
Yeah.
We try to go, as soon as we can do it. Probably even faster than a post-game show because on the post game show, we generally wait till Mike Tomlin speaks and then we go.
Yep.
For this one, as soon as we get it, we get that article out. We feel like we've got our stuff together. We will be rolling with that tomorrow night. So the best way to say it is Afton is having problems typing tonight, but that's okay. She wants to know who's live tweeting the golf. That's going to be all on Jeff if he can do that. Hopefully the weather agrees with us. That's the thing we got to look at there. But it's been a lot of fun. Rich, what do you have to say to close us out tonight?
Hey guys, thanks for kind of sticking with us tonight. We kind of, I said to Dave what was cool with what he talked about for when we decided on this for a topic tonight. I said at least on the bright side, it's broad enough that we can if something leads us out elsewhere, we go elsewhere. And you guys kind of let us out elsewhere. And believe it or not, though, it was good stuff, so we didn't mind going that way. And part of the reason we're able to do that tonight is because we're in a way. Yeah, what's your handicap, guys?
My handicap is TD, anytime I'm holding a club.
I was going to say, TD, my handicap is my golf game.
Yes. Luckily, we've got Kyle with Jeff.
We are expecting Jeff and Kyle to carry us tomorrow.
Our backs are going to be so sore from carrying us. Hey, I putt first every time because I'm not going to hit it. I'm like, here, let me see if I can give you all a better read.
Just so you know, Kyle and I were looking over the course, and we've actually already come up with some other strategies how we're going to use Dave in the game. But anyway, we're out there. We're on the waiting game, which was nice because it did allow us to have some flexibility in what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah.
Because you all know that we're not, when things are happening and we're not in a waiting game, then we're having very specific discussions led by either things like the schedule being released or particular players being signed or cut or things, with the organization or mini camp or, things like that. Right now we're in what we have to have is that flexible time. But what will be coming before too long, remember what Dave and I like to get into, I know we'll get into some of our top fives.
Yes.
That will be coming in the not too distant future, is the best way to put it. But we still love being here with you guys no matter what we're doing, no matter when we're playing a waiting game, no matter when we're into stuff that's specific. We're here, we're talking Steelers. It was kind of fun going back and talking about some of those draft classes tonight. Because, it's nice to have an organization where it's fun to do those kinds of things as well. The biggest thing, though, is that we're going to come back next week and talk Pittsburgh Steelers and probably a little bit of what our golf game was like. Can't wait.
All right.